Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, August 25th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. An urgent plea is being made by a group of local doctors and health experts. They're petitioning county leaders to call for indoor masking again. And as our Melissa May reports, they say it's in the best interest for us all.
San Diego County is now the largest county in California that has not reinstated a mask mandate.
We should have a mask mandate.
Dr. Eric Topol is the director of the Scripps Research Translational Institute and says the Delta variant is highly transmissible between people, even in outdoor settings. The whole country is currently struggling through its fourth wave of COVID.
While we're in it, there's so much circulating virus to deal with. The best thing we can do is up our protection to the max. And we're not doing it generally, and that's a problem.
Dr. Topol is not the only medical professional who thinks the county needs to mask up again. The San Diego County Medical Society and the Hospital Association of San Diego and Imperial Counties are calling on the county to reinstate mask mandates. Even the superior courthouses in San Diego County now require everyone to wear a mask inside.
We're doing it to help everyone that accesses the court.
Presiding Judge Lorna Oxney of the San Diego Superior Court cites the Delta variant for masking up her courtroom.
We can't be open if we don't have our employees here. If people have to quarantine, if judges can't come in, if the deputies and the defendants and the litigants, we just need to keep everybody safe. And so the best way during this Delta surge is to keep everybody in masks.
We again asked San Diego County whether a mask mandate would be reinstated. They told us they continue to monitor the situation. For most indoor settings, masks are required for those who are unvaccinated and recommended for those who are vaccinated. Masks are required for everyone in public transit, K-12 schools, and healthcare. Melissa May, KPBS News.
It's official and mandatory. All U.S. military service members must get the COVID-19 vaccine. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin is imposing the mandate after the FDA fully approved Pfizer's vaccine. He wants all military departments to implement the policy immediately. Right now, the Pentagon says 68% of active duty forces are fully vaccinated. More than 76% have received the first dose. And Moderna has completed its submission to the FDA for full approval of its COVID vaccine. It has requested priority review, but that could still take months. The company has also filed an emergency use authorization request for children as young as 12. More cases, more hospitalizations, more deaths from COVID-19 across the country. And as Britt Conway reports, now the virus is taking a toll on children in a way we have not seen since January.
We're dealing with a much more transmissible virus.
It is spreading quickly among the population, including our children.
We have the most number of children hospitalized yet during this pandemic.
In fact, new data shows kids are testing positive for COVID-19 at levels we haven't seen since last winter's surge. Already this week, Mississippi reported the state's only children's hospital has a record number of pediatric COVID-19 cases. In South Carolina, the ACLU filed a lawsuit challenging the governor's ban on face mask mandates in schools. In Kentucky, after court order, the governor there rescinded his school mask mandate.
A district in Kentucky that went back for 3 days masking optional and had 700 quarantines.
In Florida, so far this school year, among the 15 largest school districts, there were more than 14,000 student and employee COVID-19 cases and nearly 30,000 people quarantined. And for Tennessee-based Ballad Health,
more than a third of the positive tests that we're doing now are children under the age of 18. And as that continues to happen and they're spreading it in schools, Some of them are bringing it home to their families.
But there's still no approved vaccine for kids under 12.
In the meantime, it really is so important for us to increase vaccinations for adults.
And experts hope the FDA's approval of Pfizer's vaccine for people 16 and up will help make that happen. I'm Britt Conway reporting.
With less than a week to go before the August 31st withdrawal deadline, U.S. evacuation efforts are ramping up in Afghanistan. Military flights have increased to one every 40 minutes. Yet, as Isabel Rosales shows us, more than 10,000 people still pack Kabul's airport.
Heightened concerns about security around Kabul's airport.
We're operating in a hostile environment in a city and country now controlled by the Taliban, with the very real possibility of an ISIS-K attack.
The U.S. believes ISIS-K, a sworn enemy of the Taliban, wants to create mayhem at the airport. The group is capable of and planning to carry out multiple attacks, according to a U.S. defense official.
We know that ISIS-K is seeking to target the airport and attack both U.S. and allied forces and innocent civilians.
That's one big reason President Joe Biden says he's sticking to the August 31st deadline to withdraw all U.S. troops. Major progress at the airport. 19,000 people evacuated in a period of 24 hours. But thousands of others are still waiting on a flight, including the family of a former employee of the U.S. Embassy. We're not showing his face because he fears for their safety.
I'm sure that most of the people, they were left behind, and that is something that the U.S. said that they will keep their promise, but it didn't happen.
There's outrage in Washington after 2 congressmen made an unannounced visit to Afghanistan as the U.S. military races to evacuate as many people as possible.
This is deadly serious. We do not want members to go.
The lawmakers, who are both veterans, said in a joint statement they traveled there to conduct oversight on the mission to evacuate Americans and our allies. In Washington, Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken says as many as 1,500 American citizens may still need to be evacuated from Afghanistan. He adds the U.S. will use every diplomatic and economic assistance tool to ensure anyone who wants to leave past August 31st can do so. And Mexico welcomed Afghan journalists and other workers to its country. 124 in all, including their families and children, applied for humanitarian visas due to the recent turmoil in Afghanistan. 5 members of the Afghan females' robotic team also arrived. They're known for creating low-cost ventilators made from used car parts to care for COVID patients. Asylum seekers could be forced to remain in Mexico following a new order by the Supreme Court. KPBS reporter Alexander Rangel has more on the High Court's ruling.
The U.S. Supreme Court says the Biden administration has to reinstate a Trump-era policy known as Remain in Mexico, formerly known as Migrant Protection Protocols. The policy says migrants have to stay in Mexico while they wait for their U.S. immigration court dates. President Biden lifted that policy shortly after taking office. But now the Supreme Court is saying Biden's decision to end it was arbitrary and capricious.
And it's the same exact standard they used back when Trump was trying to get rid of DACA. The same standard was used, and you're not making a compelling enough argument as to why should this order be lifted.
Saman Nasseri, a local immigration attorney, says his clients will have to stay in Mexico, many of whom are living in shelters and encampments in Tijuana. The court's decision was a result of lawsuits filed by Texas and Missouri, who said lifting the policy placed a burden on local governments who were faced with an influx of migrants. Nasseri says some progress was being made.
Some of those cases were starting to move forward. Some people were getting paroled in and being able to complete their cases on a case-by-case basis. But for the most part, it has been extremely hectic.
He says the pandemic has placed many obstacles for asylum seekers, including a backlog in the courts.
Some of them haven't seen a judge for over a year. They haven't had their case called. So we're going back beyond the pandemic, people waiting down there for a court date, and they're still waiting. Their case number still hasn't been called. No one has contacted them.
Nasseri says there's a lot of work that lies ahead, with thousands waiting for their immigration cases to be heard.
You have thousands of people here in the U.S. who are waiting for something to happen there. So the Biden administration is fighting the immigration battle on more than one front.
Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
When it comes to earthquakes in California, it's not a question of if, but when. KPBS reporter John Carroll has details on a new way to be notified of when an earthquake is about to hit.
California, the land of sandy beaches, towering mountains, bountiful agriculture, and the land of fires, floods, and occasional strong, destructive earthquakes.
Even a few seconds' notice in advance of an earthquake could make all of the difference.
Earthquake detected.
Now there's a new way to be warned of when the earth is about to shake. It's called Shake Ready SD. It's a free app provided by San Diego County.
It could give you a number of seconds to be able to move your family, your friends into a safe place, help avoid serious injury.
The system, the first in the state, is a result of collaboration between the county and the United States Geological Survey.
By leveraging the more than 770 USGS earthquake sensors all throughout California, those seconds could allow you to take time to take protective action.
The system will only be triggered when it detects shaking with a magnitude of 4.5 or greater. It will work no matter where you are in California, and it's easy to get. Just go to your app store and search SD Emergency App. It's not an exaggeration to say the few seconds the system will give you could easily mean the difference between life and death. John Carroll, KPBS News.
There are so many fires burning in the U.S. right now that 7 states are under air quality alerts. The Caldor fire, one of the nation's largest active wildfires, is devastating Northern California. As Dan Simon reports, people living nearby are now experiencing the worst air quality in the country.
I just grabbed my dog, ripped my phone out of the wall, and ran out the door, and I was out of there within 10 minutes.
It's been a week now since Gary Vicente had to quickly leave his home in Northern California. The Caldor fire destroyed nearly the entire town of Grizzly Flats, and now there's fear the worst is yet to come, leaving thousands of evacuees in limbo. The fire bearing down on the iconic Lake Tahoe area, a popular tourist haven known for its stunning mountains and emerald blue waters. Today, it's obscured by smoke.
This fire has shown the potential with the terrain and the weather we've been experiencing and the fuel load from the drought that it has almost a mind and a behavior of its own.
The Caldor fire has scorched more than 126,000 acres and leveled at least 461 single homes in less than 2 weeks. The urgency to stop its advance so great that California's forestry and fire chief says it's become the #1 firefighting priority in the nation.
The hardest thing has just been the depression of not knowing whether I was going to lose everything or not.
Gary and dozens of other evacuees are taking refuge in a Walmart parking lot.
Where are you sleeping at night? I'm sleeping in the bed of my pickup truck. Okay. And the local community's been fantastic. Somebody came by and donated an air mattress, so I don't have to have the ridges grinding against my back.
At least 9 large fires are burning in California, forcing the evacuation of more than 37,000 people. Experts say the devastation brought on by an historic drought driven by climate change. President Biden on Tuesday approving Governor Gavin Newsom's request for a presidential disaster declaration. 92 large wildfires are burning across the U.S., 7 states under air quality alerts. In Northern California, all these dots of purple showing where the air is hazardous to breathe. Over the state line in nearby Reno, the city this week recorded its all-time worst level. People advised to stay indoors, schools canceled.
Some of the symptoms are going to be burning, watery eyes, scratchy throat, burning chest.
Weather systems are pushing smoke from the fires burning up north into our region. The smoke appears as a haze in the sky, as you can see from this SDG&E alert wildfire camera. It has been over us for a few days now, but as National Weather Service meteorologist Alex Tardy explained on KPBS Midday Edition, the smoke is starting to settle.
The areas that will see the most smoke will be the mountains, the inland valleys like Ramona, the deserts like Borrego, but even the mountains like Mount Laguna, those areas, Palomar Mountain, will noticeably see the smoke.
Tardy says the air quality has been deteriorating and is expected to be at its worst today and tomorrow. He advises limiting outdoor activities, especially for those with asthma and allergies.
The warm times keep coming for us as we watch the next couple of days here. We're going to be talking about basically temperatures staying a bit above average, also staying quite dry. Any monsoonal impacts that we'll see coming into the southwest will be well off to our east, so we miss out on rain chances as we stay dry and maybe cool down into next week. There is, though, a story through the northwest, cool air trying to dive its way on through. The problem with this is in the northern part of our state, it's going to create some gusty winds. So this will mean some problems as far as fire risk, even in through parts of California. But again, we're farther south, so while we will have the potential for some gusty winds, it's not going to be too dramatic here across our area. And overnight, 69 the low for San Diego, 60 in Oceanside. Notice at least a few coastal clouds out there. As we transition into tomorrow, warm, dry, basically the story repeats itself. Monsoonal moisture will start to increase across parts of New Mexico and Colorado, but there it will have limited impact. So for us, we really miss out on that activity. 82 the high tomorrow in San Diego. And as we venture away to Chula Vista, 85. Mount Laguna coming in at 82. Could be some smoky skies out there. We've seen some of that start to venture its way a little bit farther south and through some of our mountains. So wouldn't be surprised if you see some haze out there because of that. Temperatures, though, towards the coast staying in the 80s. Morning clouds giving way to afternoon sunshine and looking pretty good here for the next couple of days right through the weekend. If you're inland, we're talking mid-90s, so it's actually going to be pretty mild here as we close out the work week, trying to cool things down slightly heading into Saturday and Sunday and even towards the start of next week. Mountain locations, it's the 80s for you. Again, some of that hazy skies out there, some of the wildfire smoke still having some impacts, and it will help to eventually try to dry out hopefully a little bit. Saturday and Sunday we could cool down back to the mid-70s, while those desert locations are in the 110 range. Probably won't get out of that until we head into Monday. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Melissa Constanzer.
San Diego officials are taking more steps to address chronic homelessness. Plans are underway to open harm reduction model shelters, something that hasn't been done here yet. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman has more on the upcoming county and city partnership.
I think every San Diegan would acknowledge that the problem is not visibly getting better. And as a consequence, we have to try different approaches, and this is what we're doing.
San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria and County of San Diego officials are working to open new kinds of homeless shelters, ones that aim to help those with severe substance addictions.
This is not a time to tell people who are willing to raise their hand and accept services that they can't come in here. And if that means bringing someone in who is heavily intoxicated or in other kinds of active conditions that typically or historically have been barriers to admitting them into the service, what the county and the city are now saying is, no, we want to work with you.
The new harm reduction shelters follow a month-long homeless outreach push in the downtown area. San Diego already has several bridge shelters where 100 or more people are staying in group settings. But these new shelters, called Safe Havens, are designed to be smaller, housing 25 to 50 people in individual rooms.
To really bring online a new capacity that doesn't currently exist.
County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher is partnering with Gloria to make this a reality. He says right now many shelters won't let those in who aren't sober or committed to being sober, but he says that drug use will not be allowed inside these new shelters.
People aren't going to break the law in a government-funded location, but it's about having an open-door policy that says come as you are. In whatever state of mind you're in, we welcome you in, and we're gonna infuse that location with services.
Fletcher says people may be staying there for a significant period of time.
But I don't know that someone who's been on the streets for a decade, who has chronic severe alcoholism and drug addiction, it's going to take some time. And that's why we did an initial 5-year investment in this project. We've got to make that investment. We've got to make a sustained investment.
The county has committed to supplying specialized outreach teams, and it will split shelter operating costs with the city.
We want multiple locations, but look, this is very challenging. I mean, everyone wants you to solve homelessness as long as you don't do it anywhere near them. And so this is, it's difficult to identify locations, to find locations, to be able to get them going.
City officials have been tasked with finding locations for the new shelters. Nothing has been announced yet, but Gloria says community buy-in is key for their success.
I promise you that we can accommodate this into a community in a way that actually improves the neighborhood, reduces the number of unsheltered in the surrounding area. I believe that we can do this in a way that actually uplifts the neighborhood, doesn't harm it.
Gloria says these harm reduction model shelters have been the missing ingredient for success here.
We know that when we do that, it is far more likely that we can break that cycle of addiction, address the underlying mental health concerns, and ultimately get this person stably housed and off the streets for good. That's a part of the notion behind when I say I want to end chronic homelessness. This is how you do it.
The city is using American Rescue Plan funding for the safe haven shelters. Then Gloria wants to approach the city council to fund them long term.
It's a gap in our system and a part of why we are not seeing the change that we want to see in every one of our neighborhoods, a part of why we're spending more than we ever have, but we're not getting the results that we want. We want different results, so we're choosing to employ different tools, and I think we'll be proven successful.
He says the pilot shelter program is designed to get people who are chronically homeless off the streets, a goal that's also shared by Fletcher.
We know that if we bring you in and we make that initial help to say, hey, we care about you, we want to get you some help, that will lead to the outcomes that we think are best. But it's a very different approach and path.
The city and county want to open the shelters as quickly as possible, but right now the timeline is fluid. Gloria says it's important to get them right the first time.
It could be a city-owned facility staffed by county workers, and that could be it. It could be a privately owned facility with city and county teams with nonprofit partners as well. So we're open on that suggestion because at this point in time, we need to get this up and running. We need to start getting folks served in these safe havens.
Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
It was a final farewell worthy of a local war hero. Today, a celebration of life was held on the USS Midway for Pearl Harbor survivor Stu Headley. The longtime San Diegan recently died of COVID. The 99-year-old was well known for never letting people forget what happened on that fateful day in 1941.
What an amazing storyteller. Stu was charismatic, kind, and giving. He had the ability to make all of us seem like we were his best friend and we were important.
Headley made hundreds of speaking appearances, usually with a lei around his neck and a Hawaiian shirt on. Mayor Todd Gloria called Headley a true hero. The city of San Diego's first chief race and equity officer began her new role this week. KPBS race and equity reporter Christina Kim spoke with Kim Desmond on her second day on the job to discuss what to expect from the city's new Office of Race and Equity.
The city of San Diego established the office last year after the murder of George Floyd brought a renewed call for racial equality and justice. Nearly a year later, Kim Desmond is taking the helm as the office's leader. She says while the protests on the streets may have cooled down, the work she hopes to do is just beginning.
It is our job to ensure that we are breaking down and dismantling structural racism and to bring forth outcomes that are more equitable. And that is not something that is going away. We see around the country that folks are demanding. They're demanding liberation and they're demanding equity from their local governments.
One of the biggest obstacles she expects to face is just getting everyone to understand what equity even means.
There is a lot of question around how we define equity. It's about caring that in our neighborhoods, there may be different needs and you want someone's going to respond to your need. There are some neighborhoods who most certainly need different housing options. There's some neighborhoods who need different recreation center hours.
Desmond previously held a similar role in Denver. She's outlined an ambitious 100-day plan that begins with creating a training module for city employees.
My first 100 days includes building out a race and social justice learning and development academy for city employees. We need for all of our city employees to understand what it means to really do equitable work, what it means to unpack and understand systemic racism.
Black women have played a vital role in movements towards democracy and social justice, and at times were asked to solve problems like structural racism that they themselves did not create. Desmond says it's up to everyone.
We are dealing with a very complex problem, and we can't expect one racial group to carry the burden and the pressure of that. As a Black woman in this work, it most certainly is heavy to carry on my shoulders. And so I expect to partner with all of my white colleagues to ensure that they understand their work, their role in carrying forth liberatory work in local government.
Desmond knows that there are critics who question the need for an Office of Race and Equity, but she says she's ready to do the work to get people on board.
Our goal for those who are questioning this office, I would say that, do you want someone to respond to your needs? And if the answer is yes, Mayor Gloria is ensuring that we're building a city where all of us can thrive and that our individual needs are met.
Over the next few months, Desmond will hold town halls and meetings to get to know San Diego's many communities and begin her work with city employees. Cristina Kim, KPBS News.
We love tourists, just don't come right now. That's basically the message from the governor of Hawaii, asking people not to visit amid a COVID surge there. He's not imposing any restrictions, and critics say if he really wants to stop tourists, he should.
They're being vindictive against the community, but at the same time, allowing tourists to do pretty much whatever they want.
Spurred by the Delta variant, Hawaii now has more new cases and hospitalizations than it has had at any point in the pandemic. There's a new way to visit Disneyland. New Magic Key passes went on sale today. There are 4 different kinds of keys offering different features, perks, levels of access. They're replacing the old annual passes, yet they do allow park goers to visit frequently without having to purchase a ticket each time they go. The level and price of a key depends on how often you'll visit the park. And you can get all the details on the Disneyland app or their website. And you can find all of our stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.